Hello and welcome to episode 19 of the Bigger Podcast. 19 episodes and we finally got him to make the trip all the way down from Derry/Londonderry. Depends where you're from, really. This is my best man from my wedding, my best friend of almost a decade now. Yeah, would we say that?
Yeah.
10 years, 2013. Yeah, we'll go with that. And here he is, Mr. Warren Myles.
10 years.
10 years, I know.
Wow.
Scary. I'll give a brief introduction on how I met Warren. So I got shipped out to Cyprus with a couple of my close friends and we were having a great time, and Warren decided to try fight my friend at the time, and I was like, I like him, he's dead on.
It was just because he had something that I wanted. It was you.
Oh, this is going to be a fun podcast. Anyway, Warren, tell us, we always start every interview the same. We ask people sort of what is their earliest memory, and go for it.
So I would say my earliest memory was probably about P4, and I was stood in front of my mum with my hands in my pockets. And she says, "Get your hands out of your pockets." And this went on for weeks and weeks, and I couldn't get my hands out of my pockets. She sewed them.
Sewed your pockets?
She sewed my pockets up.
That's why your arms are so long.
I get that a lot.
And tell us about school, because school has a big indicator, big factor in our lives and how we turn out. Did you enjoy school?
Primary school was great. I think it is for everyone.
Sandboxes, water, what's not to love? Like,
I mean, secondary, I was basically bribing my mum to try and get her to keep me off school. I'll wash her windows, I'll wash your driveway. Me and school.
And she let you off, eh?
The odd time. And then my dad would step in and I'm like, "Wait, get to school."
Warren Senior. And then, obviously I know this, but I don't think too many people know, but you were actually a boy soldier. So you went to a thing called Harrogate, which is like, it's like further education, but in there you're also getting beasted and taught how to be a soldier.
Yeah, that's correct. So 16, shipped off to Harrogate. Very intimidating.
What made you go to Harrogate? Because like, was there a family connection? Or were you like the first out of the Myleses to go?
So my dad, he was in the army. And I actually said, I'd done work experience down in Ballykinler, which we were...
We'll come to that.
we'll come to that. I came back, I was like, that's it, I'm joining the army. I hated school. I didn't want to be in school.
The academic thing just wasn't for you then, but then I noticed you started really getting into all that sort of stuff later in life.
Maybe better. I was never the best at it, but maybe better than I was back then. I was dyslexic and all at school, just maths, loved numbers, counting, all the rest, but English didn't really go. But
that's how we became such good friends, because Warren used to be like one of my bosses, and he had to put a message into WhatsApp group, but he'd send it to me first and to get me to read it, and then I'd send it back. Is there two O's in door? I'm a lion.
Are you just here to get me sick?
I'm having
the whole way down here to get me sick.
This one didn't even go live. But so anyway, you went on Ballykinler, done a bit of work experience. Obviously, whatever happened there, you were like, yeah, this is definitely for me. Big gym and all them boys are on that, were they not?
Big gym.
That'd put me off straight away.
Well, it didn't put me off. Signed up 16, shipped off to Harrogate, and that was it.
And how long? Harrogate is a long time, isn't it? It's like
12 months.
12 months. But there, like, it's not just like getting hammered. You were doing education.
Yeah, there's so much. It's like 10 weeks of education.
Oh, so you are pretty much just getting beasted the whole time.
Well, you've got 10 weeks of leave as well throughout the year. So you do like 6 week stints, then you're home. So yeah.
What I do love about it though is whenever you're Harrogate, you can just leave at any time. Yeah, straight up to your 18th.
Up to your 18th birthday, yeah.
And that's fantastic.
It was, they say it, but I don't know. I think it was still hard. There was still a lot of paperwork involved, and they were still trying to talk you into
staying.
Out of all the people that started, I don't think too many
dropped out.
Yeah, I think more dropped out when we got the Catterick, for phase 2 training, than they did.
We had a lot of boys DOAR, or just I remember one guy just owning up to doing drugs so he could get home. I was like, right, I'm sure there's an easier way.
Scott Gard probably. I've had a few of them too, yeah.
So how did you find Harrogate? Different to like your mum telling you to get your hands out of your pockets till some 6'3" Fijian bloke telling you to do it.
Do you know what? The first 6 weeks it's always going to be the hardest anyway, being away from home. Like, I did struggle. There was a few nights, I was crying. I was like, maybe this isn't for me. I miss home. And then once I got home, then after that first 6 weeks, I was like, no, this is it.
Isn't it the strangest feeling? You go away for 6 weeks, 12 weeks, 18 weeks, whatever it is, and everything, you've done all this mad stuff, and then you go home and you expect everything to be so different, and everyone's just got on with their lives. And then, did you not worry about Warren? What about Warren, the Warren show?
Where did I come into this? I know, that's it.
One of the things I hated the most is when you came home, everyone was still working like a Monday to Friday, so you just like, I used to go sit in like the coach man and have 1 pint a day. Just something to do.
Scary, isn't it?
Aye. But so you went from Harrogate and straight into Catterick. How long? It's a shorter stint in Catterick, though, isn't it?
12 weeks.
Still long enough. How'd you find that? Because did the pace change at all?
Slightly, like they say it's going to be a lot harder, but
You're well conditioned into it by then.
that's the words I was going to say. You're well conditioned. You've just had a year of it. But yeah, it's training. You know what training's like. It's not made to be
Fun. But then whenever you leave it, you're sort of like, I missed that.
no. They say
miss
like
the routine.
school's the best day of your life, but you know that's up there competing with.
Aye.
Probably like the most like passing off that square.
Fantastic.
Yeah, one of the best feelings like.
And then obviously shipped down to Aldershot first. You were there. You were there. Good. When did you go?
Yeah, 2012.
Oh, you were there well before me. We didn't meet till we went out to Cyprus, and at that stage you were going off to be a PTI. You were out there training like a madman.
Yeah,
We came back, you got out of the Falklands to go do a PTI course.
I timed it well.
But then you can't ever say you've been to the Falklands and met your man from 5 Mile Town.
You don't tell me that story.
So there's a guy, right? There's a settlement out in the Falklands, and this guy was talking. He sounded Australian, so we thought obviously he's Australian. And he asked me where I was from. I was like, "Oh, I'm from a wee town, Mackerfelt." He's like, "Oh, it's near where I'm Faye. I'm Faye from near there." And I was like, "Where are you from?" He's like, 5 Mile Town. Bear in mind, that's how he rolls a cigarette. He puts the tobacco in his hand like that, right? Gets the paper, licks it, and then does this, and then rolls it. And I was like, "Here, you're all over it." But he's the only man there with a brick house, so I was like, "Yeah, he knows what he's at." You know that way.
What did he do?
He owned a lot of sheep. They do a lot of sheep
there?
shearing. Aye, he's a whole settlement. Loads of maniacs working for him.
He's a maniac living in Falklands.
Aye, well, he says the best thing about the Falklands is you can drink drive and nobody's going to do anything about it. He says as well, he used to have a tractor, and he says he hit the one rock on the island. One wheel was going that way and the other wheel was going that way. I was like, aye, fair enough, big lad. Madness out there, as you probably heard.
No.
But we met in Cyprus, came home, and then you moved into my quarter, if I remember correctly. Yeah.
It was. I think it was a while before we even.
I know, because you hung about with more of the senior lads.
Were we in the same company?
I was in 2 company and you were in 4.
One, I think.
1? Oh, you 1 company. So for those that don't know, is you're split into different companies. What would you even call them? The different sort of groups. And you were deployed to different parts of the world, or you were on different taskings. So if you weren't in the same company, like me and Carson weren't, so we never really seen each other until we got all sent back here. But me and Warren got very lucky. We got put into 2 company. We ended up in the same section and everything.
Yeah, for a long time then. Yeah.
And that's probably why we became so close. One of my fondest memories, and you know what I'm going to talk about, because it's nearly here, it's Halloween. Halloween night, 2016. We were out in Belize, and we were putting hammocks up every day, and you had to, because it was terrifying. Tarantulas as big as your feet and snakes everywhere. Whenever we were first entering Belize, do you remember we were put into a holding area and everyone was standing. You were standing for hours. Nobody would sit down because it was terrifying.
It is.
Aye. Towards the end, everyone was lying on the grass, but we decided this one night out of the whole time we were out there, for months we were out there, it's like, let's sleep on the ground. Can't be bothered putting a hammock up. So we set up our sort of sleeping area, got into it. I had snuck a phone with me and a set of headphones, and we put Thunderstruck on. And just as we were listening to Thunderstruck, the heavens opened.
Oh, it was bad.
The one night we slept on the floor, it rained. And the one thing about rain is all the wee scaries and all the wee tarantulas want to stay dry, so they burrow underneath you. So we're just sitting there, thunder. Absolutely bricking it. But hey, one of the best night's sleep I ever had.
My slippy one, I opened it.
Just because I was lying with you.
You're right.
But tell us, what was one of your fondest memories? Like, it doesn't even have to be deployed.
Serving?
Aye.
Probably out there with you,
I
to be
believe.
fair.
Because I left straight after that. I got posted back to Northern Ireland, Belfast, and you were hot in my tails. Like you had no, but you had all this mad ambition to go and do other things. But then you seen how Andy I was getting it. And I remember you ringing me. I was like, "Here, should I come over?" I was like,
But
"No brainer."
literally, I put a track in my. I'd probably still be in if I never went to
Oh, don't
Northern
tell
Ireland.
me that.
No, but so you probably saved my life, to be fair.
Well, I'll take but I think it showed you the different pace of life because you literally went from school, an institution, into the army, which is an institution, and you came home back to recruiting with us, and like there was not a week we'd done a day's work.
That's actually scary thinking of that now, because you're probably right.
You're just institutionalized. Sorry, you may
Because
as well be in prison.
because I was with Rebecca too, like from early doors in my army career, and then so I was coming, so we were like back and forth a week here, a week there, and then coming back to Northern Ireland, and that was like, oh, this is a test now. Like
Aye.
we have to see each other every night, and I remember us talking before I come back. I was like, well, this is going to make or break sort of
Aye.
thing. But no, we got on the house and fire because you were with Alex, but
Aye.
even like for years before you.
About a year and a half, 2 years.
What was that like leaving?
She didn't have any clue that I was always looking. She knew I wanted to do the army, but I was one of these people that was like, I want to do this, but I never followed through with it. I'm like, I'm going to the army, and she was like, what? I was like, I've signed up. This is upstairs, and then she was like, well, come down and tell Stuart. Just come down and tell Stuart, my mum, and I went down, and it's just like intimidating guy, and I was like, I have something to tell you, and he just got up and shook my hand. Because he comes from a background of like serving and stuff, and he was like, this will either make you the man or a mouse. And it was something he actually said something along those lines that made every time I wanted to drop out of training, that and hearing a certain uncle of mine at my leaving party saying, he'll be back in 6 weeks. He said that to Alex. And I was like, every time I went to drop it, like, when you get into like TAC 3, all the exercises and stuff, week 23, 24, that's when it hits hard. Like, and I was like, why am I doing this to myself? But it was listening to that back of my head. I was like, you know what? I don't want to fail. I don't want to go home a failure. Like, I've said I was going to do this. I'm not going back a tit.
It's scary how much you battle with yourself, isn't it?
Every day, especially in PT sessions you put together.
Do you reckon that makes you like stronger as a person? Because I always think often about it.
Resilience is a big thing, I think, comes from our background because you couldn't give up. You give up, you were dead. Even in scenarios, like I know like a lot of time we ran scenarios where like you were doing war games and if you give up and you got shot with TES kit, which is just like being shot with a laser and you would be dead, but it simulates real life sort of warfare, you get beasted for it. Like you were like, that's you dead, piss off sort of thing. And like that really started to hit home and you were like, geez, I could have.
Is that anything like the time where me and you were clearing a position, you were LNG gunner?
Right, so you want to tell them or I tell them?
No, you tell.
I love a good story. Out in Belize, right? I was always the machine gunner because I was always the biggest and the strongest. Nah, but anyway, I always got the gun, and there was a position that needed taken, and it was always a rifleman's job to take R2IC, which Warren was. But I seen the command officer behind me, and I was like, and I started giving it big. I give it stacks. I was clearing mags, telling people how many rounds, making it up. There's 20 rounds left. All this,
Smashed it.
and I stormed a position and just killed one of the enemy and all this sort of stuff. Went into all round defense and all because I knew he was watching. At the end of the whole exercise, I got a coconut. I got called out in front of the whole battalion and was like, here, this best machine gunner in battalion and sort of stuff. I was like, oh, that's so cool. I'm going recruiting now. And boys were winding me up. Your man who went to the SAS, and he came over, he's like, we're going to have to get you on a course. You can't go recruiting. And I was like, oh, I've written and pissed this whole thing up. I thought I was going to get called back to regiment and have to like go and be a machine gunner. I could have cried.
I'm near sure I went and tried to steal that coconut from you so many times.
I'll give you it. But that would just be how I done the same. It sounds bad. I done the same thing in training. I remember my company commander was watching it all, and I seen him, and I was like, right. And I just took over as 2IC. Started like cutting fences and stuff. Like, get through. You just have to know when to turn it on.
The S watcher, they're called.
You just have to know when to turn it on and off, or
To be fair, you did smash it. You deserved it.
No,
you deserve my coconut.
But that's like only a tip of like the stories you get whenever you're in a job like that. because like we had, remember our quarter, we had some really good friends in there.
I loved it.
Like it was nearly hard to leave. It was like leaving because you knew you'd never go back. It'd never be the same. Because I got the opportunity to go back and do COVID testing with you in 2021. I just signed off as well. I was leaving, and COVID hit, and I came back, and you were back in your room, and I was like, Warren, why aren't we going and doing stuff? And I was like, PlayStation.
No, you were like, are you coming to the gym? No, Keith, I'm not coming to the gym. Why? Because I do it during the day.
Which you weren't. But that was an experience, that COVID testing. I remember going out on the drill square and being taught it, and I was like, COVID was scary then. It was. Whenever we were going over, we were put on the boat and we had to go into our cabins. We weren't allowed to leave, individual cabins and stuff. And then it didn't hit me until they were talking about how you would take the COVID test off the person and put it into the box, and they were using litter pickers. And I was like, oh my days. But then we were at it 6, maybe 8 weeks down. I was down in Brighton. We got to stay in the hotel and stuff. But before the end of it, lads were in the cars with them, swabbing them, holding their kids in headlocks so they could get the swab up their nose. And I was like, this isn't as scary as I thought. But it was ropey enough.
Did any of your lads ever get it
Don't know, because
on the teams?
I'm not really 100% sure, because whenever you were doing the swabs, like, even when I got COVID, I thought I was going deep enough into the nostril, and then I was in here for days and I was grey, and it was one of the sisters, Donna, she says to me, you need to go down A&E. And then they took your temperature. She's like, you have a temperature, you know, then they all back up and isolate you. And your woman came in with a rapid COVID test, and she stuck it up my nose, and I swung for her. I was at the back of my eyeball. I was like, whoa. I was like, that's how deep we were supposed to be going. And I had COVID. Horrific. Did you ever get it? Not that you know of.
I don't know.
You'd know you had it. You'd know you had it.
I mean, I was sick before it all came out. I was very, very sick. I mean, coming home, and like I was really, really sick, and I was like, I can't believe I'm going to die of this thing.
It's finally going to take something.
You know, like just a silly flu's going to. But I never got tested. There was no such thing as
there was no
as the
rapid
things
test.
there. But I don't think it was, because I was better within like 2 days.
No, I remember getting it. It was 12 days I was isolating for, and Alex was about 30 weeks pregnant, and I gave it to her. And I remember her sitting out, because it was in the dead of summer too, like, you know, the really hot summer. She was lying out in a paddling pool, just lying there pregnant, just sweating. Couldn't taste nothing, couldn't eat nothing. I couldn't lift my head off a pillow. Oh, I just slept like 18-hour days.
The thing,
Take me back.
how much like time was like wasted over like there's much time you had over that lockdown, and well, you didn't. You took it by the horns, and look
That's
at
it. I
look at
built
the
this.
empire
An
you've built. You know,
Get
but
me.
there's so many. That's the most businesses were made over that time. But I mean, like for the people that didn't, that just said probably like me, it's like PlayStation.
But you were like, you hadn't decided to leave yet, so you were.
I was still in, yeah.
We were all very institutionalized to the point where we were like, you're not allowed to leave. You can't leave until you have a job lined up. But a lot of guys, like, a lot of ex-Irish guardsmen would still like send me a message and, you know, ask for advice, or they would even just be as nice as saying, here, look, you're doing really well for yourself. And I'm like, here, what are you up to? Just that conversation going, because I think the hardest thing that I found, and I've talked about this, I've seen people about it, is losing that camaraderie. It's not losing it, but like it sounds mad, we spent 20 hours a day together, like in that quarter, and like all you had to do if you were lonely, if you were a bit down, go to the room next door and have the crack. But you lost that as soon as you left. And like you nearly didn't want to message boys and be like, here, what are you up to? Because you don't want to tell them you're struggling. But I think one of the best things I did was started posting on social media, like, you know, my inbox is always open, just text me. Because we lost a friend over like just previous to lockdown and stuff and all. Jamie, that was a hard one to take. He was for coming back and stuff, and
I know.
it was 2 weeks prior.
I know.
And like, you hear like Sammy would have it more so with his crowd, boys just killing themselves because they don't see any other option. They don't see ways to ask for help. And I'm a big strong believer that if you are in a hole, the only people that can get you out of the hole is people that's been in it. And like, that's us. Like, talk to us. Like, I'm always open for a conversation.
No one's invincible.
No one's invincible. Wow.
Who does the people? Like, I heard you saying there before, like you had to go and vent to someone, before. Does that person then go and vent? Is there one person that just gets it all?
He's the last man. Last man.
Like, does all these people have to vent, like get it off their chest? Do they carry that home?
No, well, people are trained. Like we were saying, like Neve is very well trained in it, but you still need supervision, because as soon as you start numbing and start switching off, then you need to talk to somebody. And the guy I talked to, he has supervision, so he'll go, and if anything, he's told me about experiences where he's had people say something like a relative passing and he's just lost his mother, so he can't give good advice, so then he'll go off and talk to somebody else and he'll get advice that way. It's just a bit sort of, I want to say triggers, but everyone needs to talk. The most important thing is people need to speak.
See when I was went over to Stephen Green's, and he just dives crazy into the mindset stuff. He like doesn't believe in like the stress. Like he thinks it can all be controlled within the mind.
That's just somebody with a really strong mindset.
That's it. Yeah.
Somebody that didn't have, like, one thing that I noticed whenever I was talking, I ended up talking more about my childhood, and I was like, gee, I didn't know I had these sort of things. Like, I grew up relatively in a great household and stuff, but there was obviously certain things that were affecting me, and then I was carrying them into now being a dad, which was scary, because I didn't know. But now that as soon as you can get a thought process and process it, and it just goes away.
That's scary.
So my biggest advice to anybody is talk, especially men.
On your podcast?
Come on the podcast. Like that recon thing we actually done, Stuart and I'll tell you as well, we had, I think it started off about 20 men, and when they were getting up to talk, they got up and done an icebreaker, which we always done when we were doing recruiting. A lot of them were talking about, like traumas and stuff like that. And I was like, geez, we're all the same people. But the one thing they weren't doing was talking about it. And I believe now that they talk more about it now than they ever have. You can see it in their social media posts. I literally stalk them all to see what they're doing.
Yeah, I feel like I'm blessed in that way that, like, I can't say that I take any traumas home, like touch wood, like I hope.
Because you have been in a few that I could namely talk about, like, but
even,
it never seemed to affect you.
But even outside of that, like trauma can happen anywhere, like a car crash or losing someone, but I have nothing like as bad that I take home. And
it's because you're such an easy breezy chap.
Well, Rebecca says that a lot too.
But anyway, we went deep there, didn't we? Straight off the cuff. That's us for joking. Let's bring it back to the crack. We're joking. Tell us a bit about your time in the army. What's your most memorable? Like, tell me something that stands out to you. One that stands out to me is Latvia. Whenever we were supposed to be doing all-round defence, and we're supposed to. So if you're doing like an all-round defence, one has to stay awake, one sleeps 50-50, and we were back to back. I had no warm kit because my section commander at the time was a tosser and told me not to bring any. So Warren was nice enough to give me a wet jacket to put around me in freezing cold temperatures. Do you remember that? And I stayed awake for the half hour, and I was, being vigilant. I wanted to keep my body safe. And then I nudged him. And I says, "You stay awake for this half hour. I'm going to get some head down." I put my head down, woke up 2.5 hours later. Warren was sleeping while spooning me for heat.
Are you sure we can't get that guy for us? No, everyone.
Right enough. I think everyone knew because everyone was looking at us. I was like, oh. And then I had to get up, and I remember you were lying there and you had your nice wee warm jacket on. I tucked the wee waterproof jacket around you. You were like, cheers.
That's right. You tucked me in.
I spent more time daddying you than I did.
You should have had the ring sleeve. And it's a fucking joke, eh? That's some of the best times of your life.
Like we were doing this 50 or 60 mile march, and I was already in a bit of bother with the company commander or company sergeant major, mad rabble, and Warren I was like right up the front because I couldn't be dropping back in fizz anymore because that's what I got in trouble for. Me and Billow jacked in on a tab one time.
Right.
And this was like 2 weeks later. And he already rollicked us for it. He was saying how he was like, half metal and stuff. He was baiting paracetamol and briefing into him. But we were tabbing away, going at some serious pace. And I was right behind the company sergeant major because that's where he told me to be.
Right
and
beside me.
Warren just kept shouting, "Bigger to the front, get bigger up here." And I was like, "What are you doing?" And then he couldn't turn around because he was that stiff and moving that fast. And he started briefing me up.
Going off his head.
So he was shouting at me, and I was like, I'm right here.
And the angry who got the more I should have get up here.
And I thought, here, no, he'll stop it now. And he's like, somebody grab bigger. And I was like, please don't do it anymore. Jeez, you've gotten
Jesus.
some crap in the years. Like. But what stands out for you? Maybe you just can't say.
I don't know. There's just so much. Obviously, probably the PTA course is a big one for me. You know, it's like a course that it gives you like a purpose. You know, you have so many people that look at you. You're sort of like just a wee scrunt. And then when I got that course, I was like, oh my god.
People are going to start fearing me because I will make them cry.
It's weird, but it's a great. It was a great course to do.
Oh, here's another good one. We all got selected to go. We got out of Kenya to do promotion course. And bear in mind, they sent must have been about 9 of us went down. More, 12 maybe. About 12 Irish Guardsmen go down to do this promotion course. And everyone's unpacking, setting up their lockers. And you says, why are you not setting up your locker? I was like, I'm not going to do it.
It broke my heart.
I was like, what? And you were like, why not? I was like, Alex is coming over on Friday. And you were like, no, don't be at it. And I was like, no, look, I'm going to go and do the CFT and then I'm going to chin it off. Little did I know that the other 10 Irish Guardsmen were going to do the same thing. So I kept going, and you get a chalk mark every time you drop back too far. And 3 chalk marks and you're out. I had 3 chalk marks, and one on my arm and 2 in my bag. And I kept going to smudge. I was like, I've got 3. I must be off this. He was like, no, keep going. Hit mile 3, mile 4, mile 5. And I was like, somebody chalk me and get me off a CFT. Got the final chalk, got into the back of the wagon. 9 other Irish Guardsmen sitting. I was like, this isn't going to end well.
No.
And we got rifted for weeks. We got all the crap jobs.
I met in the office too after he's went. It was
I would get griefed up.
Kicking up steam.
And they were like, as soon as you're back to battalion, get into your 2 dress and stand outside the office. So we all stopped at Burger King for an hour and a half, and we're like, how are we getting out of this? Couldn't believe it.
And I know,
of all times for me to jack in a course,
I know like 6 out of the 9 easily could have been there. Easy. You know, it's
I thought the easier life would have been just to bend it off and do it at a later time, and my life was hell for a long time after that.
You should have done it.
Should have.
But then again, that when things would have panned out the way
life lessons and all that. But
in Northern Ireland,
and I wouldn't have got posted too, and I got one of the best jobs going for 3 or 4 years.
That was a pretty good job.
What was the other one? Another story that would have slapped me high, and it was probably a good one.
Fanta?
No. This is R-rated. No, it was another funny story. I can't even mind it. But in 2017, was it, we got posted home? 18 maybe. We got very lucky. There's a job that comes up very few and far between. And how I got it is actually a cracker. I told you this, didn't I? So I'd slept in for work, and that's a big no-no for sleeping in for work. You don't miss parade. That's like a cardinal sin. Like, you always had to be 5 minutes before the 5 minutes before the 5 minutes. And I already heard that the Big Jim was ringing me, and he was like, where are you at? He took roll or whatever. Where are you at? And I was like, what? And he's like, where are you at? It was not as polite as that. And I was like, I'm just over at the pressing shop. So we were on regimental duty, so we were always in the red tunics. I was like, oh, over at the pressing shop. And he was like, well, get Cass's tunic. So there's me shaving as quick as I can, didn't even brush my teeth, I uniform on, ran over to the pressing shop, came over and was leaving the company sergeant major's uniform, and he was like, who's that there? And I was like, oh, Guardsman Big or whatever. He's like, you hear about that posting in Northern Ireland? And I was like, what? He's like, are you getting posted in Northern Ireland? I was like, yeah. And he just sent me straight up to wherever it was upstairs, HQ. And then they were like, aye, you can have us. I was like, wow.
Wow.
Great day to sleep in. And not brush my teeth.
I bet they're like, oh, Jesus.
How did you end up getting it? Just come out of nowhere, did it?
I don't know. You went, and then I
got lonely.
Cried.
Send me over, Pete.
Send me over, I'm signing off. That was always a good one, wasn't it?
Always a good one.
It was unbelievable. But the Ballakilner, so the work experience that I was on when I was at school, we were then taking them, and there was the crack was mighty. Like, although they got basted, like.
Can we can, because there's nothing they can do to us now. If you tell some of them stories, I go for it. There was one of my best ones, right? So we were teaching these. we had it 5 days, 5 days pretty much to put them off wanting to join. To an extent, we had to show them what real life was like during training, simply because it cost an absolute fortune to get them there. So they were sort of like, look, make it as realistic as you can without, taking it to extremes. And I was like, wow, this is the best job I've ever had, sitting in a Hilux all day. We would teach them fieldcraft, but one night, me and another person who I'll not name, because who knows, we could get up in trouble. It was our job to move them from a woodblock up to a farmhouse in a van. And we were like, right, everyone get in the van. If you're not in the van in 60 seconds, you're getting left behind. So we put everyone in the van, took them up to this farmhouse, and we had 9 chairs sitting out. 8 people sat down, and we were like shouting upstairs, hurry up, get down here. And they were like, no one would talk. They were that feared of us, like, no one would talk. And we're like, where's he at? And he's like, down the woodblock. Dead of night, 1 o'clock in the morning, and I went, ha, ha, ha. It's like, where is he actually at? And he's like, you told him if he wasn't in the van in 60 seconds, you're leaving him behind. That van was airborne. I drove that fast. And I was about 4 miles away. And I had speed bumps and she was going over and beeping the horn and all. I don't know what was coming.
God.
And I already was sitting outside the woodblock shivering. It was barely for time. And he got into the van. I said, what were you doing? I told you to get on the van. Why'd you not get in the van? And he couldn't speak. He was that feared and that cold. And I was like, just don't tell anybody. Because if you tell anybody, you're failing the course. I don't think he ever signed up.
Oh my God, do you reckon?
But that's the same place where you actually done your shoulders and do.
Well, one of them.
Tell them that. You were trying to race somebody.
Was it one
One
like,
of the recruits,
and they're like, you can't do this, you can't do that. I says, I'm like a rat up a pipe. I will.
It was the first obstacle you popped your shoulder out.
I had a shot.
I'll never forget it.
That was sore. I was the second time
It's
doing
the
it too.
first time I've ever seen you go quiet.
That was sore. I was that sore. I couldn't cry.
Aye, brutal.
But
And we had to strip you off because you had to go to a civilian.
that's right. Down Patrick.
Aye. And then the other time you did it was when you were skiing. First week of skiing, and you were there for 6 weeks.
Class.
That was another perk of what we did. We got like paid to go skiing because you still got your wage, and then you only paid like €100 to go skiing. Some of the best experiences out there.
We were getting paid like a couple of £100 a week. They feed us as well.
Aye.
So all digs paid, ski passes, and getting paid food money, and then your wages.
Aye. That's the first time I ever had a Guinness was in France out of a tin, and I was like, they thought, oh, you're Irish, you'll like Guinness, and I was like, I don't know if I will.
Was it the surge or not?
It was like the 5 week day.
That's right. Yeah.
And they handed it to me, and I was like, sláinte, and I had a drink of it, and I was like, oh, that's rat. Is that rat? And that's actually quite nice. And I'm hooked on it. Not hooked because I'm not an alcoholic.
My dad loves that surger.
Aye. They weren't out then. They were only out like last year. Remember there was a big hype for them. People were selling for 50 quid.
People used to do it in jewellery tins and piercing holes in the bottom of it.
That's heroin. Why does heroin keep coming up with this? But here, you left. Did you leave before me or after me?
After.
After. And tell us what you've been doing since, because you are what I would say an absolute boss.
Well, I'm my own boss now.
That's what everybody wants.
That's one thing. So, well, I got out and I wouldn't say I'm a qualified plasterer, but I've been plasterer now for the last 3 years. And
That's a graft job too.
hard work. There's, you can. It's price work. It's the thing about the army. You're getting
Paid
You're
regardless.
guaranteed. It's
Which we all got institutionalized into and loved.
Do you know what I mean? And then, but now it's fucking.
You got your wee tax return every year and you thought you were a baller.
But now, like you do your own. I was gonna say do your own tax return. I was gonna say charge what you want, but within reason, you can make a decent amount of money, and then the property, and then the.
I screw the plastering over here, plastering with property.
My baby, so much passion for property.
I remember you always talked about property and stuff, and you spent a good bit of money in yourself, investing in yourself, going to like the Stephen Green and learning. Like I always like sat in awe, like just awe of you, like listening to that. I was like, wow, I want to do that. I will. I said to Alex as soon as I have next door open and stuff, and that's the next thing I want to do is beef and bird, but B&Bs. But it's a thing. It's meant to be. But I remember you invited me up to Coleraine. It was the first time I ever heard the term HMO, which is House of Multi Occupants. I went into this house and there wasn't even as much as a floor in it. You had to walk across boards. There wasn't.
The floor was rotten. I had to lift it.
There was hardly any walls in it, and I was like, wow, what are you going to do with this? And you were talking with so much passion. I was like, fair play, that man's going to get that done. And then, how long did it take you to do it?
Just shy of 12 months.
Go on his Instagram and see it, because like the befores, you were like, they've been. I personally thought it'd been better knocking her down and starting again.
There was times I thought I would be better doing that too.
But a year later, I went in and it was phenomenal. And like you had a whole open house for other entrepreneurs that were in that line of work, and now you're sort of like leading that.
I was
People are coming to you for
pitched to investors. Investors, and sort of showing them what I done. Not so much for them to get invested in me, but maybe for them to go on and do their own projects. And
not to impress them, but to impress onto them what you've done.
yeah,
What's possible.
But funny enough, I'm now like project managing a job now for one of the people that was in that room. And funny enough, a HMO, a 6-bedroom HMO. It's like 85 grand refurb. And
that's just the refurbishments.
Like that's the thing. Like I got out and now I'm project managing these things. But I started to plaster and I was like, nah.
You just were like, you were like me probably, and you're like, this is how much I need to make to replace my wage.
Exactly that.
And like you didn't care you were doing 60 hours a week because you were home. But then you started to realize, here I can do a bit more here. Which is a big message for like service leavers.
100%.
Don't shoot so low.
I just remember like mixing like buckets, of skim they put in the wall, and like looking around at the same time, and we would have been on working for a builder, and like he was coming on saying, bringing joiners in, bringing plumbers in, bringing sparks in. I was like, hold on a minute, I could do that. It doesn't take a rocket scientist, and so I did. I took the leap, but done 3-4 refurbs now, and I was flying like a. No comebacks. I hope.
The difference is these can come back. But you see the likes of that HMO and all. Like I remember thinking, geez, how do you even fund that? No, but you really did do your research, because it was you that taught me about like obviously bridging loans and stuff like that there. And like a lot of people don't know there's such a thing, but it's probably better a lot of people don't know there's such a thing, because it's
high risk. Like it definitely is.
But it probably helps that you're a top end poker player. We'll talk about that in a minute.
Love the poker too. But see, like one of the things is like you saying you invested myself very quickly.
I near died when I found out how much you paid for like a weekend's course. I was like, fair play to you, you are into this.
I've probably spent 12 grand a date now on like
personal development.
And I would hate to know what you've spent for. I know you're constantly investing in yourself, and it's so key. Like you have to be constantly investing in yourself. Just it's not even like to better yourself in a business point of view. Is to you just feel good.
Like the latest one I've invested in, people think I'm mad that I'm doing like speech and drama.
I love it.
And like they're like, why are you doing that? It's like because I want to learn how to public speak with confidence, and like because my job is to stand in front of not just a room of 12, 14 or whatever, but I inspire to stand in a room full of 400.
I think you will.
And
no
like
problem.
I don't want to do it without being ready. Just like you, if you hadn't have built that HMO and made it so successful and so damn beautiful, you wouldn't have had all those investors in there listening to you.
The only bad thing I would say about that course you're doing is I've now got 3 terrible jokes.
But they've been told really well.
They're being told very well. That's the joke. Are you actually giving do you have to find the joke yourself?
I thought that Dave joke was brilliant. I'll maybe save it for another time.
Brilliant.
Maybe that one about the 2 genies, that's brilliant. We'll not tell that one ever. But here, talk to me about what sort of the plans are for you over like the next, I'm not even going to say 5 years, because I couldn't tell you what I'm doing in 5 weeks, never been in 5 years.
I know, I hate
What do you want? What do you want to do? Do you remember whenever we were invited to Irish Guard's funeral down in, I can't even tell you, it was in Belfast somewhere.
I know.
And they started reading his eulogy. And I was like, whoa, your man's had a life. It's been spicy. He's been doing all sorts of stuff, like all this mad stuff. And I was like, geez, my eulogy's going to be quite boring. What do you want your eulogy to say?
It's not even what I wanted to say. I just don't want to be sat in my deathbed
With regret.
saying, what if?
That's the biggest thing that most people talk about in end-of-life homes. I looked up this whole thing and I got really, you're like me. When you get into something you really you're delving.
Massively. We're always both the same.
Just been like really into like what people regret in life, and the one thing that most people regret is other people's opinions. And do you remember whenever I first said I was going to be a PT and I got the absolute hand taken? He was like, "You don't even like the gym," and I'm like, "I know," but I could have just bowed out then.
You talked it so well, though. It was mad. And like the dedication, you were up at like 4 a.m.
To take class and then go to work and then
I mean, you used to meet me at the roundabout, you sleeping in the van.
in the back of the van. But that's what I used to have to do. Like because I didn't start working until 9, so I would make a bed in the back of the van and sleep in the van down at work or in the roundabout or whatever. And then you get in and being, "Oh, I'm so tired." And I was, "Shut up."
I don't remember going home every day and I was like, "Oh my God, I'm going to fall asleep behind the wheel."
And I'd like, get out of the car and get a Red Bull. I was a boost, sugar-free boost.
And many a time you were on the phone with you keep me awake on the way up the road. I was a fanny.
That was a 2-hour drive though.
I love when you were driving to Marfeld, it was only 50 minutes.
But you spoke and you were full of energy that 50 minutes, and then when you're getting out of the car, you're like,
And I was like, "Oh no."
I know, brutal. So, what's the next 5 months, 5 years?
So now, like recycling cash now. So if you understood like the whole property thing, like leveraging off.
Sounds like money laundering.
Well,
Is this what you want to talk about on the podcast?
who listens?
Tax man.
Never worry about him. He's after me anyway. Recycling cash and more HMOs. Service accommodation. It's big in the town, like Airbnb, Booking.com sort of thing.
Because you have an Airbnb up in.
I did, and then turned it into HMO.
Oh, did you? HMO's just the way forward.
Just less hassle.
Here, this is one thing we always talk about. We always, whenever we were obviously making our salary in the army, which was about what? I'm not going to shock anybody with like £1,800 or £1,900, give or take. Maybe £2,000 on a good month, if you're away or whatever. But like we always said, oh, as soon as we leave, we want to be making 6 figures and all this sort of stuff. And we thought that would change our lives. But we soon realised that it's not about the money. It's about doing something that you're passionate about and you enjoy, and like, spending time with your family.
I always remember one thing vaguely. You says when you become a millionaire, you're going to pay me $100,000 a year to be your best mate.
And then installments so you couldn't run away.
That's right.
Wouldn't give you it all because I wouldn't see you for months.
Just got a question. Are you close to it yet? Because I'm scared.
I had to bribe him 20 quid to come on this podcast. But nah, I also said that I would buy everyone cars and then you'd go and try to start your Ferrari or whatever, and then you'd be like, "Why is it not working?" And I'd be like, "There's no engine in it." I'd always wind you up as long as I could.
Oh, class.
But now, 10 years, you're getting married soon.
Sir, don't be saying that there.
No.
See, to be fair, we were at a wedding there a couple of weeks back, and
Yeah.
and I think we are like, obviously not this year, maybe next. And the
Yeah,
next,
that Rebecca, you owe me for getting this out of him.
In the next 2 years, like,
Aye.
it is the next step.
Obviously, because you have 2 beautiful kids.
Love them to bits.
But I never, not that I never seen you being the father figure. When I first met you were a kid. You know what I mean? We were children.
So immature, like.
I've matured massively since. But no, we used to have such a carefree. I always talk about people, tell them how carefree and easy we had it. And nobody understands how carefree and easy we had it. Our accommodation was paid for, our food was paid for. All we had to do was turn up for work.
Literally.
And we couldn't do that half the time.
I see that day that you were late and slept in. I must have been still in bed. You woke me up every morning.
I know. This was my boss. So this was what's scary about that whole job we were doing. But you were the best man at my wedding, and that actually, I don't think I ever spoke to you about it, but that delayed you going out to, you went out to Iraq then.
That's right. I don't know how, like, I wavered it, but...
Because Big Kyle Dog sorted it.
Big Kyle.
It's about who you know.
Legend.
You were supposed to deploy with everybody else, but you got postponed because you were best man at my wedding, which was a great wedding, if I do say so myself.
Brilliant.
That's what yours going to be like. But when you went out there, that was one of the most worrying times I ever had about you, because I don't know if it was because I wasn't there and with you, because it was the first time I think you were deployed and I wasn't there. But then shit hit the fan out there, like.
I wasn't really expected to, like, all
It was more of a protection thing you were going to do, and then you just got murdered.
teaching Iraqi soldiers. See, the thing is, there's like murders that went off, around your wedding, and so the wedding happened. Like,
Not at the wedding. They were Jaeger bombs.
And I was like, there's no chance I'm being deployed now. And then all calmed down, and then I shipped out, and all was good. I was really enjoying it. Good routine, gym, PT,
Suntan.
out, teach a couple of lessons back in it. But it was very, very good. And then, as you say, I shit at the fan. Mortars landing on around the camp, and
Lost a life, see.
God bless her, wee Brody. Medic it was attached to us, took her life. And that's like...
And you all got pulled back quite quickly.
Pulled back with
Because I remember it happening, because it was on the news first, and then obviously you don't have phones or nothing, and I think I rang Rebecca and I was like, tell me, just, is he alright? I don't think she knew, should I? Because it all goes quiet.
All they cut all the internet and etc. off. There was internet everywhere in camp, and then obviously it hits, and then once someone died, they cut all the internet off. But I remember getting a text, or getting a chance to text. I was in the Scoff House saying, I'm okay, to Rebecca, and she probably shouldn't have bothered. It might have worried her, but it went on Sky News or whatever. Then
it was quite quick on Sky.
And then Dad phoned Rebecca and like asked, his camp, and then she was fit to say, he texted me saying he's all right. Then a couple of days later, and we all thought that was it. A couple of days, and another attack, and then it was like, we need to get out of here, sort of. Well, I wasn't making the call to get the troops out of there, but
because whenever it was all like they went on to the positions and stuff, it was actually purpose built remote control.
Scary.
Aye, that was like thousands upon thousands of pounds worth of equipment.
Aye, and
hundreds of thousands even.
Half of them didn't go off on one of the attacks, and if
that could have been a different story.
Aye.
But one thing that I noticed as well, obviously on Remembrance Day and stuff like that, you aren't big into medals or nothing. Is any reason around that, or is it just?
No, I don't know. Like even Remembrance, like I wouldn't be a person to go and like to lend praise. Like of course, I remember in my own way, but I'm not one day like go and do these marches with all these people, and there's always one person directing the march, and they're just that.
It gives you the ick, sort of. I've noticed. I honestly, because I got the chance to lay the wreath in Cookstown a couple of years, but the year I wasn't, I felt like so secluded from the whole thing, and I was like, I'll maybe just remember it my own way too.
Yeah.
Because me and Sammy went up that year, and then he started doing his own thing too. Because it's hard to let go, I think.
No, it is. But
apparently, Rebecca told me anyway, she'd be walking around the house and you'd put her in the step.
No,
or the wains.
After there would be the odd time, you would get a wee.
You still got it.
You would get a wee, buzz and do something mad. But honestly, it's the best thing I ever done. Even one of the best things I've done. But I do not look back.
A lot of people say to me, "Would you go back?" And I was like, "I wouldn't go back, but I would do it all again." And I wouldn't do anything different apart from break curfew in Cyprus. I changed my whole outlook on life. We'll not talk about that. So yes, Warren Myles property. Obviously you have so much knowledge on this sort of stuff. Can we interest you in posting more of it on your social media?
You've always been on my back about the posting, and I'm always so bad at it. Even me personal.
I know a really good content creator, Darren behind the camera. You could hire him in and do some, because you are really good at talking and you come across really well, and I think it would help grow that for you.
Promo videos?
Not even promo videos, but talking, because I know a lot more about property development now than I did before you went into it, because I didn't know about bridging loans, HMOs. I always came for you for mortgage advice and stuff, just sort of been here, what's the dodgiest way I can tell me to but this is stuff you could pass on. It's like you have all that knowledge, why sit on it?
I know, it's when I set up the pages, I did mean to, you see
life gets busy.
You see people that's very good at it and getting out the information. It is good, giving back. But it's the time and posting regularly, and I know I could go home now.
Send it to me to spell check.
Do a crack.
There's an app for that, mate.
You must be using it.
I am.
Go home.
Hemingway.
I could go home and set up a decent post.
I know.
Post it, but then I know, like, I'm not gonna. I know you're gonna say schedule them. And one
No,
thing,
I'm not really into scheduling these days.
one thing's like making them, but remember we had the thing before about pushing the stuff out there for ads, because one of the things I was pushing on my own.
That's one thing a lot of people don't know, that me and you had a competition page. But we'll not go into that one today for tax reasons.
Are we still? This is what we should have been trying to sell tickets. I wish we still had that white mark.
I still see it.
Class. It was brilliant though.
People are going to listen to this podcast and be like, there's so many inside jokes there and we got none of them.
That's literally us. We're talking riddles all the time and just laughing at each other.
That's why our wives look at each other.
Alex and Rebecca's looking at like, what are these clowns on?
That's why she left. She was going to do the podcast. She's like, nah, can't be ours deciphering it.
But yeah, that's one of the things that
Social media is your business card, isn't it?
I know, and I should be building a brand around it and pushing for investors, because if you have investors on board, you can scale a lot quicker. And like, I know, like, it's limited property. Like, it's not 20 quid, 30 quid. It's a couple of $100,000 like you need for a bit of flex in property. Obviously, you have the leverage of bridging loans, your mortgages, and then but the easiest way and the clean cuttest way is private finance. And you'll be surprised at the many people that's sitting on lump sums of money in the bank that's
doing nothing. Losing. It's actually losing value
with inflation. Yeah, and it's scary.
That's figures. What my mortgage advisor would say, that if you, I have heard you say it too, if you buy a house and the money goes up, the value of the house goes up. So you're better owning property than you are having stacks of money.
Yeah, well, it's just like, if you have $100,000 in the bank and inflation's set at 10%, in a year's time it's worth $90,000.
Whereas if you have a house and inflation goes up 10%,
you have 110.
Do you hear that? You heard that here first. But it's quite hypocritical of me going on to you, be like, oh, why don't you start posting content and helping other people get into property development, whenever I really want to help personal trainers and gym owners, but yet I won't make that leap because I'm worried about what people think. I still feel as if I'm relatively new to this game, but I've been at it for nearly 6 years, over 6 years. That's mad. Where does time go?
But see, looking, and I would, like, from I've been around quite a few gyms. When I've done the PT thing, I would call you like a god in the industry.
Well, I wouldn't say that, but I'll take it. Cut that bit out and send it over to me.
I'm telling you, and I've always said to you what you have going on, and that community and what you stand for as part of a gym. It's unbelievable, Keith, and you should be really proud of yourself.
We'd be very strong in ethoses, but that would come from probably the army background too, because you had to know your ethos, and you had to, if anyone asked you, you had to rhyme it off. You started to believe it.
But I feel like you instill that in everyone that comes through that door, and they feel like they're part of. It's just how they get on. It's it, and see, even I'm not part of the gym, but see, when I walk in and around them people for 5 minutes, I feel
Everyone's
the buzz.
so welcome.
I feel the buzz in the room. You know what I mean? And it's every time I come, and
I'd be quick to jump in. If somebody news in class, and don't get me wrong, people would get carried away talking amongst their friends, but I would bring that person over, and on Monday there was a new girl started, and I made everyone else in the class do an icebreaker, stand up, name, age, favorite exercise, go, and I made them all do it.
You made everyone else do it.
And then the new person did it.
Usually it's just like the one person put in the spot, but that's a very good way.
But the first thing that does is that takes them back out of their comfort zone, so then they know how it feels to be the new person.
Yeah.
And it takes them back to remembering what it's like.
Class.
But hey, they all got on like a house on fire, and I think all those things that we've done for so many years, I was like, well, why don't I do this here? And what does it say? Civies pay thousands for this. We've done some mad away days, and you've been involved in 90% of them.
Nah, I've got a few. I love it. It brings you back to the.
I love whenever you rocked up. The last one you came onto was Rise and Conquer. It was the last big one we done. And you rocked up and you're like, what am I doing? And I says, you're doing the aggression lane. And you're like, what's that? And it's like bayonet training. And you just burst out laughing. And you're like, are you mad? And I was like, yeah. And then when we went down to the waterfall and then Trust falls into it, you were like, check yourself.
It's mad. Like, but see, like the balls, like they're all getting off it. But even it's class. Like,
But if we were told to go and do
really-
that during the we were like, no, I'm not. Do we have to?
I know.
But now I'm like, aye, so we pay 5,000 for this.
But it's always that sense. But even when we done it
Aye.
and you're finished, it's that buzz, that sense of achievement. That what's
Did you do Gearlock Head? Did you get
no? That's that was the exercise before Falcons. I ditched that too.
You heard about it though?
War stories.
That was hardship that brought men together.
He's not hanging off a hill or something.
Hanging off the edge of a cliff. Walked for a day and a half to do an ambush, and when we got there, everyone fell asleep. I was sitting there like winged up, ready to go.
You had to stop the exercise, didn't you?
No, they tripped on me. They read a map and there was a road supposed to be in it, and when we got there the road wouldn't exist, and Billa was like, no, it's just over here, and he stepped down and the water went up to there and it was freezing. November time up in the north of Scotland in the Highlands.
Hello.
Bill right up to his knackers. I'd never forget it. And then one of the lads fell down a big hill as well. What do you call him? Naeem. He fell down the big hill. That's the time he wrecked himself.
That's right. He had the big cadaver.
Here we are again, just going off on a podcast. But no, I'll not hold him up because he's got such a long drive ahead of him. But I am so appreciative. I just love the catch up.
Will you stay on the phone in case I fall asleep?
No, because I'm going home to bed. But like one last one. It was something we'd done recently when we all got together and went up Steve Gallion up the mountain. And I think I would love to do that more often, but I think we need to tell other people to do it as well. It's like take that time out for yourself, for your like. I'm not going to call it man time, but like just time for yourself where you're not having to be like husband, fiance, dad, boss, manager, whatever it is. I think we had the best days cracking, and it was really good, even just for like a whole mental health thing. Everyone said when I came home, I was so refreshed for like a day or two after it.
I think all four was
Buzzing off it.
and we all needed it.
But I think that
We don't do it enough.
we try to organise it, but you know what I mean.
To be fair, you're always on the.
And nobody ever texts us back on WhatsApp groups.
Come on now.
Oh no,
I'm always texting back.
but no. We'll make sure we organise that and we'll Instagram it as well. But follow Warren. This is his Instagram name here. He is going to. We'll all keep him accountable. He's going to start posting on social media.
Not on there.
Right here, Tommy Jeans. He's going to start posting on social media. If you want to know more about HMOs, if you want to privately invest in them, give him a shout. He's off to a flyer already, and he's only been at it for
Just over a year now.
just over a year. And like watching him grow, even just as his friend, from this guy who used to play PlayStation for 15 hours a day to plastering 15 hours a day, big difference. But no, I am so appreciative of him coming down and doing this podcast, because if I had told him 10 years ago, here, big lad will be sitting in Mackerfell doing a podcast.
I'd have believed you. I believed
You'd
everything you said.
have been like, what's a podcast?
No, I really appreciate being here, Keith.
So that is episode 19 wrapped up. Just had to check with Darren. Thank you very much for coming on and watching. I really do appreciate it. Having conversations with people that we meet day in, day out, and they reference the podcast. That means a lot to us, because this started as a passion project, and now we are 19 episodes in and still loving it. But thank you very much, and we'll get chatting to you soon.